Hey everybody, Marisa here from She Knows Crypto with this week's Crypto Cocktail Hour, a news roundup of what's going on in cryptocurrency. So I'm coming to you from Playa del Carmen, in this wonderful jungle type of garden. And this week's crypto news, it's a down market right now, except for one prominent winner, which we'll talk about why that's happening. But people are saying this is a bear market. I think from day to day, you can say bear market, bull market, from day to day, actually. So I don't think those are really great terms to define the nature of this asset class at this point. We're up, we're down, and it's just volatile. So let's get to the news. A few headlines. A lot of stuff is going on in cryptocurrency, in blockchain technology, and I try to just grab a few things per week. It's definitely not comprehensive. It's not the whole thing, but I'm looking to bring you some more macro type of views and long-term trends to help you really figure out, where is this whole cryptocurrency thing going in the future. We're still in its infancy. So we'll start with Russia. Russia is looking to create legislation about cryptocurrency. So they really want to define the terms. And what they're saying is they're trying to replace the slang of cryptocurrency. So the word cryptocurrency and the word token, they're kind of defining as slang. And they're looking to create strict legal concepts, which of course is probably a translation from Russian to English. So what does that mean? And why do we care? What is cryptocurrency is still what the world is trying to define, what people like you and I are trying to define, what governments are trying to define, what economists are trying to define. And one of the ways to do that is to actually choose our language very carefully, because our language is how we communicate. We decide what is a common definition for a word, whatever language that is, particular language, and then go on that basis. So right now the word cryptocurrency has so many different meanings depending on who you're talking to and what context and what thing. So what Russia is saying is there's digital money and digital rights. And they're saying digital money is cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, where we just exchange value. It's a storage of value. Digital rights is more of what we think of as tokens, like your Ethereum tokens, your ERC20 tokens, which I think is a good delineation or a good next step of how we're really going to define what this thing is. So Russia is trying to do specifically for legislation, and I think we're going to see a lot of other governments trying to step in and define those things. So I think that's a good trend. Thank you, Russia, for trying to really define how we're speaking about these things and what they really mean. The other big news this week is the Consensus Conference. So much stuff came out of that. Well, one of the things that got my attention was a panel of women that were talking about U.S. regulation. There really isn't a whole lot of definitive U.S. regulation on cryptocurrency and blockchain in general. So what they're saying is we really need to get on that because typically in other countries, if it was another country, not having regulation is kind of good. Let's go there because they really don't have specific regulation that we can't do it or what it is. A lot of these tax havens and different types of countries that don't have regulation about things is an opportunity. But in the U.S., that's not. It's not an opportunity because just because a regulation doesn't exist doesn't mean that if you interpret that it's okay to do it because it doesn't say that you can't, means that it's going to be okay in the future. Because it's very, very fear-based in the U.S. So what they're predicting is that regulation in the U.S. will be created through prosecution. So how companies are defining what exists as current laws doesn't mean that's how the courts in the U.S. are going to define it. So there's a lot of fear, and companies that are trying, and startups that are trying to be innovative in the cryptocurrency space and the blockchain space are really, at this point, they need to go abroad if they want to protect themselves because there's no clear legislation. So what that means is that's bad for U.S. innovation. So what are we going to see? If the U.S. does not come out with very clear, specific regulation, they're going to miss the boat. And a lot of the innovation in the cryptocurrency space and in blockchain is not going to be U.S.-based because the world can't wait for the U.S. to decide what's legal, what's not legal, what's good for them, what's not. We had a Fed central bank chairman come out this week saying that cryptocurrency is a threat to the valuation of the U.S. dollar. So there is a lot of discourse in the U.S. politically and economically of what cryptocurrency means, and I really don't see them coming out with something very definitive anytime in the future. So it's basically interpret it yourself and then kind of hope that you won't be prosecuted in the future, and that's not great for startups or innovation. Another headline that caught my eye this week was one out of France that said Bitcoin mining this year will be 0.5% of the world's consumption of electricity. 0.5%, so 0.5% of all of the electricity consumption in the world will be taken by Bitcoin mining. So what does that mean? There's been a lot of attention to the environmental impact of cryptocurrency, and specifically Bitcoin as the largest cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin consumes, according to this data, as much electricity in a year as all of Ireland. And one Bitcoin transaction consumes as much electricity as it takes to power a home in the Netherlands. So that's not very green. And I hear this argument a lot from people, and people approach me and say, like, okay, cryptocurrency is great. We're peer-to-peer exchanging value. It's definitely the future, but what's going on? It's not very green. It's not very environmental. And the incentives are really not lined up to help people be more green about it, to conserve energy, because the incentives for miners are create more processing power using more electricity. So the more electricity you use, the more potential you have to earn Bitcoin. So the incentives aren't lined up correctly. So should we just abandon cryptocurrency altogether and not use Bitcoin because it's just not very green? I don't think that's the solution. AC and fans to keep us cool and to keep our equipment cool is 10% of the global consumption of electricity. Should we all just stop using AC and fans and not cool things down and just move to where it's cold? No, we're not going to do that. In my opinion, in my very humble opinion, is we need to change how we create and use energy so that it's more friendly to the planet and that it reduces global warming. That's a bigger macro issue. Just trying to say, curb cryptocurrency and stop blockchain technology because it consumes too much. We have that problem across the board in all types of consumption. So that's what we need to do. We need to take a closer look at how we consume energy and how we produce it, and then become more green and sustainable across human consumption, and then add that to Bitcoin and blockchain, in my humble opinion. I talked about earlier that all the markets are down. Boo-hoo about that. One isn't. Binance has been doing really great today. What is Binance? Binance is an online exchange that has their own token. So essentially you can buy their token and with fiat or whatever, and then use that token to buy other cryptocurrencies and do cryptocurrency trading. It's a Chinese-founded company. And what they did this week is they doubled commissions for referrals. So if you're on Binance and you're using the BNB coin and you refer other people, then you're going to get a double commission if you hold a certain number of these coins. So that is possibly why we're seeing a spike. I'm not sure how I feel about an exchange that has their own token. Of course, that's how they raise money for the startup to create the exchange in the first place. But if you look at the other exchanges like Coinbase, CEX, Kraken, Gemini, they don't have their own token. You buy with fiat, you buy Bitcoin, you buy Ethereum, you buy whatever coin's available on their platform. You don't need to buy their own coin. So having this double commission and some positive news has made their coin go up. So when you take a look at all the down markets and you see a pop, why did that happen? Well, there was an incentive for more people to buy that coin. So is that sustainable in the future? We're not sure. Maybe it's just a pop. But if you're looking at the top 20 cryptocurrencies and you're seeing Binance and you're wondering why you missed out there, well, that's what they did. The last big piece of news that I want to talk about is Coinbase. So Coinbase is the largest, or one of the largest, depending on what measure, online exchanges that you can take fiat and buy cryptocurrency with. And they are launching a program for institutional investment. What's an institutional investment? An institutional investment or investor is a pool of money that is used to buy securities. So we're talking about pension funds, hedge funds, mutual funds, all of those types of things where we pull a bunch of money from a bunch of different sources and it creates a fund to invest in something else. So why are institutional investors not in cryptocurrency right now? There are custody issues, settlement issues, and definitely security issues. So Coinbase is launching a product suite looking for or anticipating about $10 billion in investment from institutional investment. So $10 billion US dollars are going to come into the crypto market pretty soon. That's about 2.5% of the total market cap of cryptocurrency. That's big. That's going to create a lot of liquidity. So we should see a spike there in all of cryptocurrency once they launch that. So what are they promising? A big issue, again, I talked about three. One of the biggest is security. So Coinbase is promising security and custodianship of cryptocurrency so that these hedge funds don't have to worry about it. How does Coinbase do that? Well, from what you can read on their FAQ is essentially they have some USBs in some kind of safe deposit box in Switzerland, holding all the private keys of everyone. So somehow they're able to convince institutional investors, and I haven't seen it very clear, that their security methods with cryptocurrency will be able to secure $10 billion worth of institutional investment. So that program and that product suite is coming out, and it seems like it's going to have a good uptake. And at $10 billion in the institutional investment market, again, we're talking about mutual funds, pension funds, endowments, all of these big pools of money will now have access to the crypto market through Coinbase, through this special program. So that's definitely good news. So that's a few headlines for this week. My favorite part of the Crypto Cocktail Hour, our shitcoin of the week, is called Donna Coin. Donna Coin is a coin based out of Hong Kong, an ICO based out of Hong Kong that helps facilitate donations on the blockchain. So I took a look at this coin, and their tagline is making the world a little bit better. So the flag for me is there's a lot of different pockets of ICOs. There's a bunch of ICOs about gambling. There's a bunch of ICOs about identity. There's a lot of ICOs in this market about donations and charity. And it's actually, pulling this emotional need of charity, of making the world a better place, of being altruistic. And we really got to take a look at that. And the tagline of making the world a better place, how are you really doing that? Well, they're issuing this token with a soft cap of $1 million US dollars and a hard cap of 10 million US dollars. What is this coin actually going to do? If you take a look at the white paper, the coin itself has no utility. It's essentially a donation for them to create this system to make donations more transparent on the blockchain, and then you would use this Donna coin to donate to charities. But this Donna coin doesn't seem to have any type of real value, more than any type of little piece of paper that I would hand you and say, here's a Donna coin. So it's looking a lot like many of these other pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes of just taking your money to create a startup as an actual donation and then using these coins for what? It's really not apparent. Another red flag there, again, always take a look at the use of funds. So if you look at the use of funds, you've got 10 to 20%, depending on how much they take in the ICO, going directly to the founders. That's a lot of money. So you've got $1 million potentially going to the founders as a donation without having any performance base. And I harp on this over and over again. These ICOs put a lot of money to the founders that doesn't have any performance-based criteria. They don't actually have to do anything to get the money. I have an idea, I have a white paper. And this white paper particularly annoyed me because it's got a table of contents that says all the page numbers where you can find things, but then there's no page numbers at the bottom of the page. That's kind of basic. I'm a stickler for details. So Donna Coin, while it sounds like a really good concept and a charity, I would be careful of all of these charity-based, altruistic types of coins that are trying to make the world a better place. They're basically pulling on an emotional need for people to get back, that want to do the right thing, especially people that are involved in the blockchain and the sharing economy and, social justice and social good, social equality, all of those things, all of those emotional things. This is an ICO that seems like it's just slopped together, pulling on those strings, and really doesn't have a whole lot of backing to it, and the coin is basically useless. It's a token, doesn't have any utility, doesn't have any rights, and looks like another type of Ponzi scheme situation, pyramid scheme thing, where you're just donating to the startup that's going to create a donating blockchain. So that is our Crypto Cocktail Hour for this week, coming to you from Playa del Carmen. Got my Cuba Libre here. Cheers to you, and hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you next week with the cryptocurrency news and roundup here, probably from Playa del Carmen again, because it's lovely here. Have a nice week. Happy crypto investing.